Hello student, welcome to Mahamana Academy. Today we are going to discuss regional aspirations chapter. Right. So in the last chapter we have discussed nation building. Right. And we have discussed how the partition of trauma happened and the state got divided into two parts. In Pakistan and in India, and then we have discussed the case of Hyderabad, Manipur, about the 3 or 4 princely states, and in this chapter we are discussing the remaining parts, right? Because the nation building is not a sudden thing; it's a gradual process. People demand something that the government has to decide that whether to accept that demand or not, and then it's a very gradual process. So in case of Kashmir also, if Jammu and Kashmir, you will notice that the things started getting complex in 1947, right? And still at this point also we see the insurgency, cross-border terrorism, right? So you can see that it's the solution has not happened suddenly, right? It's a gradual process. It's happening every day, right? And then in case of Madras state, you can also see that the Andhra, Tamil Nadu got divided. But then again in 2014, in the last chapter, we have discussed the fact things, right? So we have discussed how in 2014, the Telangana was carved out from the Andhra Pradesh, right? So it's a very gradual process. It's happening even today also. So in the last chapter, right? So the last chapter we have discussed the nation building. Nation building means immediately after independence, how we have just started from the very initials, from the very beginning, right? But then here we are discussing that process in the current time also. What is happening today, right? What happened in 2014, what happened in 2000, right? So we are discussing that same chapter, but in a detail, relating it with the recent issues, right? So this we are going to discuss in this chapter. Why I have been teaching you this chapter immediately after nation building is because it's somehow related, right? So after discussing this chapter, we will go and discuss chapter 1, that is about the party politics, and then we will discuss the chapters which are similar to each other, right? So we can do it together, so it is very easy for you to understand also, right? It is easy for you to relate things. So that's why we are studying this chapter, regional aspiration, right? So here you can see that the nation building is something that you cannot accomplish with time, right? It's a problem, it's a challenge that arising every time, right? So it's basically a process. It's a democratic process. It's a democratic way, but also a gradual process. It's not happening in one go, right? So here we are discussing basically the period of 1980s and the recent period, right? So what happened in 1980s? Here you can see armed assertion by the people. The demands were not just to separate the state. The demands were very, very diverse, right? The people also wanted. There was also a secessionist movement. What is secessionist movement is something where the people are asking to carve out a state from entire nation and to separate and to make it another nation like Pakistan. So that was secessionist movement, and then some were demanding for the statehood, separate statehood. So that was another thing, and some demanded for regional autonomy. Autonomy is something which gives special status to some region, some states, right? So this demand is threefold, right? You can just see that this demand is threefold. First one is they can ask for a statehood. They can ask for a state, right, to carve out a state and make a different state within India, right? Second is the secessionist movement. Secessionist movement, that is to carve out the state from the entire Indian nation and then to form another nation. Like for example, the Khalistan, their demand is very different. They want another country, right, like Pakistan. So this is the second demand. And the third one is when the demand is related to the autonomy. When they ask for the autonomy, that okay, we will be the part of particular state, but we will be given some autonomy. Like in case of northeastern region, right? What happened in northeastern region? It's a very small area if you compare, and even after that we have 7 different states in northeastern region, right? So dividing another states from that region is a very difficult task, right? So that's why some minority community like Bodo, right? So Bodo and kind of, they were given the some level of autonomy. So that is also one demand, right? So it depends what demand people are, asking from the government, and it also depends what government is assuring. Like for example, if someone is asking for separate state, somehow state is not the government is not willing to do that. So what they did, they have given the special autonomy, right? So this happens, and because to fulfill their demand, people go to resort armed assertion as well, right? So armed assertion as well, and in order to control them, what happened? Repression by the government. Repression means to pressurize people to cut short their demand, or to make to use a violent method to stop their violent act, their armed rebellion, right? So it's a kind of repression, means pressing someone to not do something. And then the collapse of political and electoral progress, it concluded the dialogue and process. Dialogue means, dialogue is a kind of communication when the two people are sitting together. One is a demand, one who is making a demand, and the other one is the government side. So they are negotiating, having a dialogue, right? And then to settle the compensation, right? So so armed, nation building is somehow run in this way, right? Some people are making demands, maybe they are using the armed method, violent method, or non-violent method, and the government has to decide, and then they have to also pressurize people to not go to resort to violent method. So this is an entire process, and then to have a dialogue, and then to resolve that compensation. So it's a very gradual process. It takes time, and it's a very complex process that involves different stakeholders, right? So what was the Indian approach? We have also discussed this in nation building chapter also, that our approach was very simple. What we wanted a democratic way, and the second one is unity in diversity. Like, okay, so unity in diversity means that we have to take care of diversity, because people are demanding different states, but not on the condition of hampering the unity of the country, right? So that is our approach, diversity, but also to maintain the unity. And then the second one is democratic approach, and then such arrangement may lead to the tension and problem, right? So if we not deal this, then this lead to the tension and problem, right? So this we have already discussed: partition, displacement, trauma after independence, right? And then we are discussing the formation. We have discussed the formation on the linguistic basis as well when we were discussing the case of Madras, right? So how the people were demanding a different state on the basis of their language, right? The difference in the language, they were demanding the different state, right? And then today, if you are I suggest you to before seeing this chapter, you first go and see your last chapter, learn the facts, learn all the facts, where, right, which state was formed, when formed, how it was formed from UT to states. So that fact, the last page of that chapter, I suggest you to remember that, right? And then you will understand that how some states were on the basis of linguistic basis, and then some administrative basis, and then there was some region where there was agitation, the demands were there, and then we have discussed Andhra, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat. We have also discussed yesterday, like how from the Bombay presidency, the Maharashtra and Gujarat got divided, right? So that we have discussed in this chapter. So what we are going to discuss in this chapter? Here we are going to discuss 5 major things, right? First one is Tamil Nadu. Some demands were made at that time from the Madras province. Some demand were also accepted, and then the State Reorganization Commission was formed. But still, there are some demand which still has to be fulfilled, right? in 1980s and 1970s in the coming phase. So that, the recent thing we are going to discuss in this first section. And then we will in the last chapter we were discussing that how different princely state and persuading those princely state and into the Indian nation was very difficult task. And then we have discussed some states like Hyderabad, Manipur and Junagadh, but we have not discussed the Jammu Kashmir case, right? So here in detail we are discussing Jammu Kashmir case, right? And then we have Punjab crisis, and also the anti-Sikh riot that happened in 1984. Maybe you might have seen a movie or something where you have seen how the Sikh riot happened and the people are killing the Sikh people. So how it happened, right? What was the reason? Why that anti-Sikh riots, and what was the Punjab crisis? What demand they were putting to the political system or to the government? So that we are going to discuss. And then we are discussing northeastern challenges, northeastern region, that all 7 sisters, right? And then we, in a very short way, we will discuss Sikkim and Goa liberation, right? So this is something we are going to discuss in this chapter, right? So first we are starting with Tamil Nadu. Dravidian movement. Why we call it Dravidian movement? So it is basically, it's, carving a state or Tamil Nadu is not something, a movement of statehood. It's more emotional, right? It was against Hindi speaking people. It was against, it was for the upgradation or protection of their culture. So it was basically a movement. So that's why we can also call the Dravidian movement. Right. The first regional movement, if you see, that was coming from the Madras province. And we basically call it, this regional movement, as a Dravidian movement. Right. So what was Dravidian movement? This is very important. You should remember this. Right. The dominant sentiment was, and so the first movement was also known as the Dravidian movement. So that you have to understand. And then we were discussing that there is a way of putting your demand, right? It can be violent, it can be non-violent. So in a very short way we will discuss in which reason, which type of method was used to put their demand. So in case of Dravidian movement of Tamil Nadu, we can see that they have used the public platform or electoral politics, not arms. So it was basically non-violent electoral method. They have not gone through the armed rebellion, or they have not killed someone. They have not done something. How they put their demand? They have gone through the electoral procedures, right? They started contesting elections, and then they formed the government. So this kind of process, they come and contesting election, and if they form the government, then they will make a change. So it's a very it is called the electoral process, right, to putting their demand. And then we have to see that which area, right? Basically in Tamil Nadu, which area is we can say is the reason which was where the demands were coming, or the Dravidian movement was active, right? So that area was Tamil Nadu, right? And why it was basically limited to the Tamil Nadu, although the Dravidian movement is from the south, but lack of support, or maybe lack of convenience, that was only limited to the Tamil Nadu. So here we have got 3 things. First one is Tamil Nadu movement called the Dravidian movement, that you have to learn. Second, it was limited to the Tamil Nadu region only. Third, they have resorted to the electoral politics or the very non-violent way, right? Okay. And then we are discussing their aims. So what were their aims? Can you see this? So basically they wanted so the first demand, right? So they wanted Dravida nations, right? So like we have discussed now, there is 3 things of 3 ways of putting their demands. Either they want a state, or they separate nation from the country. So here you can see that they wanted a separate nation, like Pakistan, right? So their first demand was to form a separate nation. It is a demand. Be it very clear that it is a demand side, it is a demand that people are asking. government will approve this or not, it depends. It's another thing. It's another story, right? So here we are discussing the demands. We are discussing their aims, right? So what the people, the common people which were active in Dravidian movement, what they wanted, that we are discussing here, right? So the first thing they wanted is to create a Dravidian state, Dravidian nation. And then the second, they were against the Brahmanical domination. Brahmanical domination, Brahmanical domination is basically a system, caste-based system, right? Where some people are giving the preference in the social life, and the other one are being considered as untouchables, and they are not giving that priority, and there is no equality. So that unequal system. So they were against that unequal system, and opposing Brahmanical system is also, you can see, the way of promoting their own culture, right? So that's why it's a way of promoting their own culture, right? And to oppose the unequal position of Brahmanical structure, right? And then the third demand they were against the Hindi language, right? Because they usually, South region, you have noticed that they usually speak either their own language or they are more comfortable in English, right? So Hindi is not their region, and this is the reason why in India we have two language, Hindi and English both, because in North India people are speaking Hindi, right? But in South India the people are more comfortable in English, right? So because this movement was from South India, so they were against the Hindi language. They were not against particularly of the Hindi language, but they were they were opposing to consider Hindi as an official language, because once the Hindi will become the official language, they will not understand the documentation and kind of things, right? So that's why they didn't want this. And then we are discussing the demands. So here we have discussed the very basic, right? But here we are discussing the particular demands they have highlighted, right? So the particular demand, the first one, there was one railway station called the Kalakudi railway station, right? Which has been renamed by the center, or maybe from the people of the North India, right? So from the industrial house from the north, so North India. So it was renamed by the North India. So so what their problem was? Their problem was not regarding the name, but their problem was that some people from the North India, they have renamed their railway station as Dalmaipuram. So they wanted to change it, right? They wanted to just rename again and return back to the original name, right? Then the second one is in the school curriculum. Right. In the school curricula, they wanted to uphold the Tamil culture. Right. To uphold the Tamil culture means to give importance to the Tamil culture. In NCRTs or in any book, whichever, children are reading at the school level, that text should include something that give importance to the Tamil culture. That was their second particular demand. And then they were against the craft education scheme, right? So what was that craft education scheme? They thought that this craft education is somehow related to the Brahmanical social outlook. So that's why they wanted to stop this craft education scheme. So basically their main aim was against Brahmanical, Hindi, and they wanted Dravida nation. But then they have also made some particular demand that they want to change the name. They want to go back to establish the original name of the Caligula railway station. And then in the school curricula, they wanted to uphold the Tamil culture. And then they were against the craft education because it was somehow linked to the Brahmanical school social outlook. So next we are discussing the party politics. So why we are discussing the party politics separately is because in your syllabus, in your NCRT book, these things are given together, but I am separating it just for your understanding, right? So we have discussed the aim, we have discussed the demands, we have discussed the area influence, we have discussed the way they have, putting their demands, and now we are discussing the party politics. So when we are discussing the party politics, we have to understand that this Dravidian movement led to the creation of DK. That was Dravid Kajagam. Okay. And then DK got split into two parts. Right? DK got split into two parts. DMK, and here the same thing, DK. Right? But the legacy transferred to the DMK. So basically DMK became the popular. Why it became the popular? It is because its success in anti-Hindi agitation. So basically DMK was very much against the Hindi language, and they were very successful in putting their demands and agitating against the Hindi language, right? So that was the one reason why they got popularity. And when they got popularity, can you notice the facts? When, why, where? So these facts are very important from your exam perspective, right? When you are seeing the things, when I'm teaching you something, I'm just teaching you to relate things and make it easy for you to remember. But remember that you have to remember facts, because it is a smart work, right? You have to remember facts. They can ask any facts from anywhere from your NCRT. But if you are reading your NCRT many times as possible, then you are somehow completing your facts, right? And they ask facts. So you just have, when you're seeing this lecture, you just have to relate things. But the ultimate things is, please go and learn facts, right? Even in the previous chapter, I'm also suggesting that the last slide I have shown you, please go read it. Please go learn it. Only then you will realize na ki when and where that states have got separated, what happened. So the facts are very important, right? So here you can see that the party got popularity in 1965, and then that entered into politics. Entered into politics, what does it mean? That now they started contesting elections, right? So basically entered into politics means that in 1953 and 54 they started contesting elections. They got popularity in 1965, and then they came to the power. They came to the power in 1967. Okay, so till then you can see that the DMK is a very popular party, right? Anna Durai and all the Jayalalitha, these are the people from the DMK. Although it's another thing that the DMK once again got separated as DMK and AIADMK, right? So like Jayalalitha from AIADMK. So this kind of how this party from the DK movement became the party, and then the DMK legacy, and now the two dominant party, DMK and AIDMK. So maybe here you can see here AIDMK and here DMK, right? So the party got once again got split into two party, DMK and AIDMK, and then we have. So basically these two parties are very popular in Tamil Nadu, and after then many splits happened, right? So there are many different parties, like for example the very small parties, right? Because that are coming from those party only. So these are very small parties, but you can just see once. Okay, so basically this is if you see your questions, your MCQs, these are somehow MCQs is like you have to opt from the 4 options only. So what I'm trying to say is that if you will if you will read chapter again and again, then somehow when you will encounter the questions, you will remember, or you will something click in your mind that okay, I have read something. So in this way it will be easy for you to remember facts, right? But the ultimate thing is that you have to remember facts, right? So basically you can, so these are not so much importance, like Marul, Larchi, Dravid, Munetra, Kajagam, Patali, Makal, but you can just read it for once, right? These are not very much important. They might or may cannot ask, but these till here, these are these facts are very important. You can just read it for once, right? So that if in any case they will ask, they are day by day they are making your exams difficult, so maybe they can ask, but somehow there is a chance that they will not ask, but you have to read it once, right? So in case if they will ask, something click in your mind and you can do it, right? So in this way you should remember thing. And the one thing is you to remember fact is that relate thing, right? Try to relate it with the maps, try to relate it with the happenings, right? So in this way you will easy to, so you in this way you don't have to learn facts, you will automatically understand the facts. So in this way you can relate things, right?